Since the end of the last stream, which again was 2 days ago, I have gone ahead and taken out our first stack of Erodium crystals, specifically our first 54 Erodium crystals, and I crafted up this guy down here, the Crystal Laser Lens, which is something I think we have mentioned a few times in the past, and essentially this guy increases the percentage chance of getting the environmental tech crystals that we need in order to upgrade our miner. So previously, there was a chance of 5.61% to get an Erodium crystal for every cycle of the Void Ore miner. Now, with the new laser lens, there is a 16.7% chance of getting the crystal. So it basically triples the chance of getting that crystal with every cycle of the machine. I updated this yesterday, so since then we have managed to get 2 stacks more of these Erodium crystals, as well as almost 3 stacks of Litherite crystals, and also the 1 rogue Lonsdale crystal. Like I said, I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but apparently this is used in modifiers to upgrade our miners or other multi-blocks from environmental tech. And speaking of which, we should now have, I think, more than enough of these Erodium crystals to upgrade our Void Ore miner to a tier 2 Void Ore miner. Now, to do that, if we look in the digital guide here, we're going to need to get 32 tier 2 structure frame, which you do make by upgrading tier 1 structure frame. So we first have to get 32 tier 1 structure frame, and right now we have 24 with our current miner. We need 16 structure panels, so slightly less than we had before. 4 modifiers. Now, we could put a specific modifier in, like, for example, you'll see there was a speed modifier, and I would very much so like to be able to get a speed modifier. However, I don't know if we have the resources to make that. It looks like we probably do. Yeah, it looks like we have the resources. Oh, no, we don't, because we need the Mika, and the Mika is only generated by the resource miner. So if we want to get like a speed modifier, we would have to first set up a void resource miner and then use that to try and get this Mika block here, which I believe you can only get via the resource miners. So for now, I think we're going to have to just use empty modifier blocks, aka null modifier blocks, which don't require kind of any specific material really. It's just a lot of iron, a lot of redstone, and then some black concrete, which is just sand, gravel, and black powder. Easy enough. But yeah, so I think what we should probably do here is we should probably kind of tear down this first Void Ore miner. All right. So that is all the parts there. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is we're going to craft up 8 more structure frame tier 1 to allow us to get up to 32 here, which really shouldn't be too difficult for us. I think we should have mostly everything we need. It looks like the only thing we might be missing is some of the old Litherite crystals, which of course we can craft on our own with the diamonds and the flint, but given that we have 3 stacks available to us, we might as well go ahead and use those instead. So let's go and see if we can't get enough here. It does look like we're missing some more interconnect, but again, I don't think that really any of that is going to be too difficult. We've got a ton of iron, a ton of redstone, and between streams, I did go and get a bunch of mystical black petals, and so if we quickly grab our pestle and mortar, nice. Then if we're going to upgrade that to tier 2, we have to craft it with gold, lapis, and Erodium crystals. And so boom, and boom, that should hopefully get us 32 tier 2 structure frame. It does. Nice. From there, of course, we needed slightly less in the way of structure panels. So I think 20 should be enough. The only thing we're missing now is 1 more laser core and then 4 null modifiers. So again, the null modifiers are actually very easy to make. And then the laser core, I also think is pretty simple. It is. Nice. So that should be, I think, basically everything. So what we'll do is, once again, we'll actually upgrade our miner itself. That's kind of the main thing we actually do have to upgrade. And for that, we do need these blocks of Erodium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then hopefully that's basically everything. It is. Nice. So let's go ahead and put this guy down right underneath the previous chest. And then if we grab our assembler, which I think is hiding out in here, we should be able to hold down right click and basically rebuild the Void Ore miner, but now, hopefully, slightly better. And this one does require less power by the looks of it. That's interesting. And we do have to put down our lens here. Did I pick up the... Wait, did I use the wrong lens? I didn't, right? Oh, I'm a fool. I'm a fool. Oh, no. Oh, that's bad, chat. So what you're supposed to do is when you craft up a new... Was it the laser core that used it? No, it was the Void Ore Miner. When you craft up a new Void Ore Miner, you have to put any lens in. What I should have done is I should have crafted a new clear lens, because that is made of 7 glass and is very easy to make. Instead, what I did is I used our rather expensive crystal lens, which is this guy right here, which requires 56 iridium, which we now no longer have. We currently have 10 iridium. So, you know, that's a slight miscalculation on my part, but nevertheless, this will still work, hopefully just fine. It just means we're going to get slightly fewer crystals, which means it's going to take us, once again, even longer to get up to tier 3, but hopefully it's not going to take us that long in the grand scheme of things. So if we quickly grab our memory card and give that a quick right-click, we should see power begin to flow into the Void Ore Miner. There we go. And yeah, hopefully that's going to get resources just a little quicker. Now that that is taken care of, we can kind of move on to the main goal of today's stream chat. And what I'd like to do today is I'd like to progress on with a couple of the quests in the Sun, Moon, and Stars quest line. Specifically, I'd like to try and get at least 1, potentially 2 blast furnaces. Now, oh yeah, of course, we do actually need to get, we do need to put some lens in there. Thank you, chat. Clear lens. Otherwise, it will not work at all. There we go. So, as I was saying, I want to try and get 1, maybe 2 blast furnaces. And the reason I say maybe 2 is that they are quite expensive, because not only is the blast furnace itself quite a pricey recipe that requires quite a bit of refined steel, but also, as it turns out, after some testing, the blast furnace is not a single block that you place down and use. The blast furnace is a block that you place down and then attach like a multi-block to it. If we go to @Tech Reborn, I believe that we also have to make quite a bit of the standard machine casing, which in and of itself requires, you know, more basic machine frames, which are yet more refined steel, which are more electronic circuits, and we have to get, I think, like a 4x3x3 multi-block. So imagine like the slightly taller blast furnace. It's 3x3 by 3x4, if that makes sense. 3 wide, 3 deep, and 4 tall. So that's quite a lot of refined steel. And so I think what we should probably try to do is we should probably try to automate the process a little bit of making refined steel. Now, unfortunately, we can't fully automate the process until we have the blast furnace, because the arc furnace from immersive engineering is not automatable at all. You just can't automate it. There's no way to input or output the graphite rods, so it doesn't work. However, we can, you know, automate some other parts of the process. Specifically, I think that we should look at trying to automate the creation of basalt, right? Because again, if we look at refined steel, the recipe for it in the arc furnace is 3 steel ingots, 2 calcite dust, and 2 coke dust. The coke dust, of course, easy enough to get from our coke oven. The calcite dust is made in, right now at least, in the centrifugal separator with basalt dust. You can also do it with marble dust. Maybe marble dust is a better idea, actually. Can we automate marble? It would appear we cannot, unfortunately. Yeah, unlike basalt, which if we go back and we look at the basalt here, we can actually make basalt in the igneous extruder with water and lava. However, before we do any of that, I think what we might do is we might just try and get some more basalt. I did get some more between streams. I went through to the nether and kind of mined out a bunch of the pyrotheum area. However, there is also basalt in the overworld. If we look at the little world gen here, you'll see in the nether it spawns kind of all over the place, but in very small quantities. You know, the maximum quantity is 0.09%, whereas in the fake overworld, which is the overworld that we have access to, down at Y level 6 or 7, it spawns like upwards of 6%, which is, you know, an order of magnitude higher than 0.09 or, you know, 0.08%. So I think what we might do is I might dump all of the basalt that we have currently into there, let that process through into some basalt dust. While we wait for that to do its thing, I think we'll head on through to the overworld and see if we can't get, this is the wrong way by the way, see if we can't get some more basalt, because I think what we want to do to start with is just craft up or, you know, process a bunch of refined steel, and once we have that refined steel, then we can look at automating, you know, the production of it. All right, So we started off mining some basalt. However, the Twitch chat did point out to me that we can use marble instead. And marble, as it turns out, is about just as common as basalt in the overworld. You can see here, and maybe it's quite a bit more common actually, because it's got this kind of like steady curve. So there's a lot more of it, and basalt in the separator turns 16 basalt dust into 3 calcite dust, whereas marble, through the same process, you can turn 1 marble into 1 marble dust, and then 8 marble dust gets you 7 calcite dust. So it takes half as much dust to get over 2 times the amount of calcite dust. So the marble is definitely, I think, the way to go in terms of getting the calcite dust here, to the point where we now have actually 40 calcite dust ready to go. And I think I did put a little bit of calcite dust in here before the stream. I did. We got 12 refined steel ingots and 40 coke dust. So we can throw in the extra calcite dust there, as well as some more steel ingots. And really, like I was saying to the Twitch chat, at this point, the only thing slowing us down, I think, is the crusher, right? Because we have to wait for the crusher to crush down the marble dust and also to crush down the coke dust. But I think we really should have basically everything we need here to make quite a lot of refined steel. We've got 64 blocks of coal coke in here with a few more ready to go in there, back up to 42 already, with more cooking up as we speak. So we can run those through the crusher as well. And we've also got 245 more marble in our inventory. It was surprisingly easy to find in the overworld. So at this point, chat, I really don't think we need the basalt. And I think we can probably get enough refined steel to jump straight in with the blast furnace. Now, the reason I said that I kind of want 2 of them is because, again, if we look at the recipe for refined steel in the blast furnace, it's made using iron ore and calcium carbonate cell. Now, iron ore we have in abundance. We've got 831 here, and we have a few more stacks over in our void ore miner. However, the calcium carbonate is also itself made in the blast furnace. So I think in an ideal world, we'd have one blast furnace turning slag and distilled water into calcium carbonate, and then another blast furnace taking that calcium carbonate and crafting it up with our iron ore to make that refined steel. And then we do get the empty cell back, so we can pump that back around and use it to get more calcium carbonate. So ideally, I would like to make 2 blast furnaces. So chat, now that we have over 3 stacks of refined steel with, yet more coke dust, yet more steel, and if we wanted to, yet more marble, we can make even more of this if we want, but I think it's time to pivot on over and see if we can't make our first blast furnace, because of course, as soon as we get our first blast furnace up and running, we can then make more refined steel just with iron ore and what is essentially just distilled water in the form of the calcium carbonate. So let's see if we want to make. We'll start with the machine casing, I think, because this is probably going to be a little bit easier. We need 34 standard machine casing, which means we need to craft this 9 times. So we need 9 basic machine frame, which is going to eat up a good chunk of our refined steel here. We also need 1 more of those for the blast furnace. And then on top of that, if we're going to make the blast furnace, we need to get the copper nickel heating coils here, which are made with, you guessed it, copper and nickel, which are made in the rolling machine, which in and of itself requires a basic machine casing, which in and of itself requires 2 compressors, which in and of themselves require 2 more basic machine frames. We need so freaking many basic machine frames. That's basically, mind the pun, where all of our refined steel is going. It's just in 2 machine frames. But if we're going to make 9 lots of standard machine casing, we need 18 electronic circuits and then 54 iron plates. The iron plates, thankfully, are basically the easiest part of all of this. If we head up to the old metal press, of course, we can swap out the gear press there for our plate press. So long as you're not holding torches. There we go. And then we'll just throw 2 stacks of iron. I might even throw, a third or a fourth stack of iron into there. We don't need that much. We don't need that many iron plates, but having them available for the future is probably, only going to be a good thing. As for the electronic circuits, I don't think these are going to be too difficult. Again, they do require more reinforced, refined steel even. But other than that, they're not too bad. We also need a lot of insulated copper cable. Thankfully, we do have a good amount of sap now. We've got 2,000. Periodically, I have been kind of coming over here and emptying out these chests and dumping them into the system. And I have set up a little storage drawer for all of their wares right here. So you can see we're storing the sap, the wood, and the leaves, although, as you can tell in the top left there, we're not quite, storing enough of them in here. It doesn't look like we don't have that much space, so a lot of them are being stored in our system, which is fine. So what we should be able to do is grab, basically all of this and kind of run it through the alloy smelter here. And that should get us basically, I think, all of the rubber that we're going to need to make a ton of copper cable. Yeah. As for copper itself, I think we've got quite a nice amount. Yeah, we've got 800 copper plus, another 1,200 copper in the end copper ore there. And then the only thing after that is redstone, which I think we have in abundance, and of course solder, which is lead and tin, both of which we have in rather large quantities. Now, we do still have to use the smeltery to make this work, and it's probably, chat, not a terrible idea for us to look at making our smeltery bigger. Like right now, it's pretty small, and if we're going to be using it to make a lot of stuff, we should probably look at making it a bit taller by at least 1 or 2 blocks to really increase the capacity. Okay, so now that that's a little taller, let's go ahead and throw in like a bunch of tin. Yeah, we'll do half a stack of tin and half a stack of lead. We'll let that kind of just flow in passively there. It's a little awkward that you can't view the smeltery while doing this. I guess like a better solution, honestly, might be to have an item conduit and a chest instead of a hopper, because the item conduit allows you to still access the chest, through the conduit. Like if we do, access the controller, through the conduit like that. I think that could work quite well. So extract, always active, and insert. There we go. And let's make sure we get that last bit of lead in there as well. Beautiful. And yeah, that should make us hopefully quite a nice amount of solder there, which we can pull out, of course, into our assembler. I did just mention that I have no idea why this keeps disconnecting, but we will go ahead and reconnect it and set that again to extract, always active. Take out the unassembled PCBs for now. And then I guess get to work at making some regular PCBs. So we need 18 of them to make the standard machine casing. We also then need 2 more to make advanced circuits for the blast furnace. We then need 2 more to make the electric furnaces here. So what are we talking? We're talking 20, 22. But then we also, of course, need the rolling machine, which requires 2 more. So 23, 24, 25, 26. I think maybe if we go for like half a stack of electronic circuits, like 32, then we might be onto something. So if we're going to make 32, well, let me bookmark the old electronic circuits here. If we're going to make 32 electronic circuits, we need 32 refined steel. We need 192 insulated copper cable, and then 64 redstone. That should be pretty doable. So we'll take the 32 refined steel, we'll throw that in right about there. We'll take the 64 redstone and throw that in right about there. And then as for that copper cable, I'm hopeful that we're pretty close to being able to make that. So how much can we make right now? We can make 48. We do need to cook some more sap up. That is fine. Let's do that over here. Get all those in there. Perfect. And then if we throw in the cables that we do have, we can start this process going. Now, I think what we should probably do is quickly head on over to the overworld and grab the speed upgrades that are in our culinary generator that are currently not doing anything close to being useful. And then we can stick those in over here to hopefully make that a little bit faster. And it's probably, chat, about time that we hooked the assembler here up to some real power. And I think right now our closest source of real power is right here. So I think what we'll do is we'll kind of run this under the floor and over to the cables over by the coke oven. I think this is a conduit facade. It is indeed. So we can go... And we'll go 1 block down just so we don't have to make too many more conduit facades. Like this. Perfect. So hopefully that now has enough power to run with the speed upgrades. The only trouble now, of course, is that the assembler still works in this bizarre way in that you can't put the solder into it if it has items in there. We have to take all 3 of these out, let it fill up with solder, and then put them all back in again, which is super bizarre, and I have no idea why it works that way. but it does. All right, so that should be all of them. It is indeed fantastic. Okay, so now the question becomes, do we have what it takes to make any of this stuff? Hopefully we do now have a bunch of iron plates in here. We do indeed. Let's grab those and throw them in the system with the electronic circuits, and then let's see if we can't make 34 of these. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, and 36 is more than enough. Fantastic. So that's that part taken care of. Then over here, we need a few things. I think we'll start with the copper nickel heating coils here. So we need a rolling machine. For that, we need 4 pistons, 2 advanced electronic circuits, and 2 compressors. Let's start with the compressors, I guess. These are machine casings, stone, and electronic circuits. So those seem very doable. Perfect. We can unbookmark those. Let's go rolling machine. Let's bookmark that and then unbookmark compressors. So the pistons really shouldn't be too bad. The advanced circuits are again made in the assembler, but this time they're made with destabilized redstone, glowstone, and lapis, which doesn't seem too bad. So I'm thinking what we might do here, chat, is we might get some redstone out of our system, throw that into the smeltery. I don't know if this, what conduits? We're using ender fluid conduits, and the ender fluid conduits don't store any fluid in the conduits. So I'm hopeful if we move the destabilized redstone to the bottom and then take out the copper cable here, that fills up with destabilized redstone. It does indeed. Fantastic. We do need quite a few advanced circuits, right? The blast furnace needs 2. The rolling machine needs 2. And I think that's it. I think those are the only 2 we need, right? Are the only 4 we need? Yeah. So let's get 4 regular circuits with some lapis and was it glowstone? Yeah. And then just run all of those through here. And boom, nice. Those were actually not too bad whatsoever. At which point, I think we basically have everything for the rolling machine. We do. Perfect. And again, I'm going to assume that the rolling machine does run on redstone flux. So hopefully, we can kind of just put this down anywhere that there is power. Which right now is kind of surprisingly few places, honestly. Let's move this drying basin for a second. And let's just run an energy conduit there. Okay, so I am being told by the Twitch chat that we do need a Tech Reborn wrench to pick the machine up. So as not to destroy the parts. Like normal, if you pick it up without a wrench, you can just get the machine casing back. So we'll have a wrench here just in case. Okay, perfect. All right, so in here, we need to combine copper and nickel. Thankfully, we do have quite a bit of nickel and even more copper. And if we put that in with the nickel in the corners and the copper in the middle, that's hopefully going to get us a few. Oh my goodness, it's so slow. But that's hopefully going to get us 4 of these. You get 3 at a time, so we only need to run it twice. That's fine. And at that point, chat, we're pretty close to where we need to be. We need to get 2 electronic furnaces, which shouldn't be too difficult. The iron furnaces are fairly cheap, and upgrading them to electronic furnaces is also not too bad either. And so at that point, yeah, the only thing we're missing are the copper nickel heating coils, which we now have enough of, so we'll take all those out and stop that. And we need the advanced machine frame, which is a regular basic machine frame, but this time with 2 carbon plates and 2 advanced alloy plates. Thankfully, neither of these are as expensive as they sound. The carbon plates are, you guessed it, carbon brick through the metal press, and carbon brick is just charcoal. So getting 2 of those is going to be a piece of cake. We'll throw those in over there. And then as for the advanced alloy plate, it's an advanced alloy ingot under the plate press, which is made with a mixed metal ingot, which actually has quite a few recipes. A few of them do include refined steel, but however, there are some, like this one here, that requires just nickel, bronze, and tin. And in fact, there's one like here that requires nickel, bronze, and aluminum that gives you even more. It gives you 4 instead of 3. There's even one that gives you 5 if you use Invar. That seems pretty doable, actually. Like, we have nickel and we have iron. So, you know what? Let's grab a little bit of both of those there. Let's also grab some copper that we can combine with our tin to make more bronze. And we should be onto something. We should be able to make 5 of those fairly easily, even though we only need 2 for the time being. We, of course, do want to make a second blast furnace, so having those things ready for the future is going to be pretty nice. So let's see. Advanced plating, advanced ingot, mixed metal ingot. Let's go over to the one that gets us 5. That one right there. Perfect. And then I believe at that point we just smelt that up. Yeah, we smelt those up and then run them through the metal press. Nice. All right, I think finally we have everything that we need to make the advanced machine frame, and then from there to make the industrial blast furnace. Holy heck, that took some doing, chat, but we have made it. So, now, let's go ahead. I'm going to pick this guy up, because I think we're going to set up our, and I'll put down the drying basin, I guess, once again, right there. But I think we're going to set up our tech reborn machines down here somewhere. I think we'll put them maybe in the wall over here, potentially. So, let's think about how I want to do this. I'm thinking we might have like a blast furnace here, and then like a blast furnace here. Like that. And that might be this wall, honestly, because, again, the way these work is that you have the blast furnace up front, but then you have like this 3x3x4 structure behind it. So, essentially, if we clear out the 3x3x4 area, which looks a little something like this. We then build the 3x3x4 out of standard machine casing, making sure to leave the middle 2 blocks empty, which is why we only need 34 and not 36. So looking something a little bit like this with these 2 middle blocks here empty. And then on the front of that, you put down the blast furnace. Like that. And I think if we get rid of one of these, it'll come up with like an error. Yeah, incomplete multi-block. So you do want to make sure that you have that 3x3x4 behind it. And then at that point, we can, cover that up again like so. I might even put some glass above that so you can still kind of see the, the multi-block behind it. I think that could look kind of cool, actually, having like just some glass pins in front of this, like that. And maybe even like here and here as well. I think that could be pretty neat. It is a bit of a weird multi-block in that it has like the blast furnace, like the multi-blocks behind the blast furnace. It's a little bizarre, but we'll have 2 of those. The first one, of course, we're going to use, hopefully, to turn the, to create the calcium carbonate. The second one is going to take that calcium carbonate and turn it into refined steel. Now, if we're going to get calcium carbonate, that's where this next quest right here comes into play, the hold still quest. To make the calcium carbonate, in the blast furnace, you need slag and distilled water. Distilled water is made in the distiller from Immersive Tech, which is the add-on mod that adds the improved coke oven as well. And it just turns water into distilled water. It does half it in the process at the cost of power, which really I don't think shouldn't be too difficult for us. Let's get the old manual. We can see to make it, we need 7 steel scaffolding, 3 fluid pipes, 1 redstone engineering block, and then 2 light engineering blocks with 10 iron sheet metal. None of that really seems too difficult, honestly. Steel, scaffolding. Did we need 7? Now that we have so much steel, this is really not too big of a deal. Iron sheet metal is just iron plates, so thankfully we did make quite a lot of iron plates earlier today, and we actually already have 10 iron sheet metal, so never mind, Isaac, we don't need any more of that. All missing now is 3 fluid pipes, 1 redstone engineering block, which I believe we do have to craft this time around. Fluid pipes, again, I'm fairly certain are just iron plates. They are indeed. And then what are we missing? We're just missing 2 light engineering blocks, which we might have. We do not. Okay, light engineering blocks. Did Isaac of the past make extra mechanical components? He did not. However, that is fine. Iron plates and copper are not hard for us to come by. So if we head on back up to the central area and do something like 1, 2, 3, 4 and get the right blueprint. That should be basically everything we need. Nice. Perfect. And then, presumably, chat, if we grab the hammer, we're good to go. Nice. So, now come a few issues. The first is the issue of water, which really shouldn't be too difficult. I think we're going to use the exact same setup we used before, so we're going to get another end of war. to provide unlimited water to our setup here. That really shouldn't be too difficult. We just need a cauldron and then a bunch of quartz glass, which we can make fairly easily, of course, with the old alloy smelter. The slightly trickier issue is going to be, of course, the issue of getting power down there. And I think I'm probably going to do it via our applied logistics system. I think we're going to run a conduit down and then use another P2P tunnel. And then just run, we'll run the ME conduit from the controller down to, maybe like here or maybe like, over here. And then from there, we'll have energy conduits go to the respective machines, just so we don't have to make quite so many conduits. And also, that does give us the ME cable required if we want to try and automate some of this with applied logistics later on down the line, which I think we probably do. So that should be enough quartz glass. It is. We do, of course, also need some water. That requires the old Rod of the Seas. Good stuff. And that should basically be everything we need. Let's put down the 4 endeavoirs. Again, we'll do it in the 2x2 formation. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If we grab a bucket and our Rod of the Seas, we can then go ahead and, of course, fill those up. So 1 and 2. Perfect. At that point, we can grab a fluid conduit and just pump that water directly up and into the distiller. Nice. Now, I don't know how fast the distiller is either, or if it's going to be anywhere near fast enough. But for now, let's go ahead and grab some cable. And by that, I mean let's go ahead and craft some cable. And let's see if we can't get another P2P tunnel down here. So that is basically good to go, I think. Let's grab another P2P tunnel. Beautiful. Let's make sure we put that down. I guess for now, I'll have that like pointing up like that. And then we'll right-click that with an energy conduit to make it into an energy P2P tunnel. And then, of course, we'll grab the memory card, which is right about there. And give that a quick right-click. There we go. So that should now be connected and loaded. So we've essentially, all we've done here is we have run the energy conduit that was coming down before. Now it's going across the roof. And then it's going down here. We're going to cover these all, of course, with facade, so you won't see it in the roof. And this will just look like another mineral wood pillar. It then goes through the floor. We tweaked this one here a little bit, so it's no longer coming from the roof. It's coming up out of the floor again. And then that goes across, down, and it goes around through this little back room here that I generated for the arc furnace. So it kind of comes right down through here, under the floor, and then again, across, all the way along, and then around to here. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to have simply end-wire conduits that go up into here and here. So like from there, and we'll have it go across, probably underground, just to save on conduits. Again, we'll have it like run underneath here, but we will have one conduit facade like right there to cover that up. But that should hopefully provide power eventually to both our blast furnaces, and then we can do, of course, the same thing on the other side for the distiller as well. Yeah, that guy is receiving power, fantastic. And yeah, we'll do the same thing on the other side. That one's a little more janky, but still definitely doable. You kind of have to come up through here. Like that. And of course, eventually I will change the blocks around here like I did with the arc furnace as well. So we'll kind of cover that up and it'll hopefully look a little nicer. That's actually very fast. I was not expecting it to distill the water that quickly, but it seems to be doing just fine. And so all we need to do then, chat, is just kind of run the water coming out of the orange area there over through to the blast furnace. Well, first of all, we have to actually put it into casing, because if we look at the recipe, we need the distilled water in casing form in order to use it in here. So we do have to first bottle it up, and I think we'll do that in the fluid tank because it's a lot cheaper than the fluid transposer. The fluid tanks, of course, being these guys that we used before to fill up the bottles. And yeah, that should be pretty good. So let's start though by covering up all this mess, all these cables. All right. So we now have 2 fully functioning blast furnaces all ready to go. So what we need to do now is we need to get another tank from End.io. This tank is going to be used to fill up the distilled water. Specifically, let's go ahead and let's unbookmark some of these things. Let's bookmark refined steel. So we're going to use the tank here to fill up the distilled water cells. So let's get some empty cells. These really shouldn't be too difficult for us to make. And they're not. Perfect. So we're going to pump the water out of the distillery. And I think it might auto go out. It does indeed. Perfect. And then that's where we're going to fill up the cells. The cells then need to be pumped out of here, along and into the blast furnace. Now, I assume they do have to be pumped into the front of the blast furnace, would be my guess. So I assume we have to go like kind of around the side here. Let's grab some item conduits. I think 14 almost certainly is going to be enough for what we need to set up here. So let's get a few more going. And yeah, let's see if we can't pump those right around. Like that. So here we're going to set it to extract, always active. And then over here, we're going to set this to insert. That should hopefully bring those cells, assuming you can insert here. Oh, hold on. Okay, so you can, okay. I've not played with Tech Reborn before, but you can configure slots. This slot is going to be coming in from the right, so you just left click and make sure it's set to blue. We then need to combine that with slag. Now, as of right now, we're not automating slag, but I think we can automate slag. I think we'll do that maybe in the next stream. But for now, we'll just put in some slag. It is very slow. I have been told we can make overclocker upgrades. They're made with electronic circuits, copper cable, and then coolant cells. The coolant cells are actually very easy to make. It's just water and tin. So that's really not too bad, actually. We might even be able to make one or two of them. I don't know if we have any circuits left. We don't. But we can make those, I think, fairly easily. Once we have more refined steel. From there, we're going to, of course, take the calcium carbonate, and we're going to pump that through and over into here. Now, I'm just thinking about how I want to do this. I think we'll do it through the bottom. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to have item conduits that come out here and then run along the pre-existing power line up and into here. So you're going to export to the bottom. The bottom's going to be orange, like so. We're also going to make sure, of course, that you down here are set to extract, always active. Over here, you're going to insert through the bottom. There we go, perfect. And so now, if we grab some iron ore and we throw that in here, that should slowly but surely begin making us the refined steel, but it makes it in such better quantities. Now, I think what we want, the final piece of the puzzle here, is to put another item conduit right. Well, let's change a few things. Let's set this one here to extract on brown, and then over here to insert on brown, just to not confuse things, because we're then going to connect those up, and then over here, we're also going to have this conduit extract on red. I'll make that always active. And then over here, right back at the beginning, we're going to have this one insert on red. That way, what should happen is, of course, the distilled water cell should be pulled out, taken into here, turned into calcium carbonate cells, pulled out, sent over here, turned into refined steel and empty cells. At that point, if we configure this side to output to the bottom, we should then see those empty cells get taken right back around and be deposited into here for the whole cycle to start again. And as you can see, we're already getting the refined steel quite a bit faster now, which is very nice indeed. The slowest part of the whole setup is, of course, the first blast furnace, really. But yeah, this setup is basically done. Of course, we do want to cover up a lot of the conduits and whatnot and kind of hide a few things in the wall, but getting a reinforced steel going forward really shouldn't be too difficult for us. Like I said, we can automate slag. I think what we're going to do, right now we're using the slag from immersive engineering. However, you can also use the slag from thermal expansion. And as luck would have it, the slag from thermal expansion has a pretty easy way of being obtained, because if we look at cobblestone, and we look at the recipe that uses cobblestone in the induction smelter, you can combine 2 cobblestone and 1 sand to get 1 stone brick, but the key part of this recipe is that there is a 100% chance of getting slag. So essentially, we don't need the stone bricks. You know, we could delete the stone bricks, just have them dumped into a trash can, but for all intents and purposes, we can just turn 1 sand and 2 cobblestone into 1 slag, and given that cobblestone is a free resource that we can generate from lava and water, and that sand is also a free resource that right now we're getting from mana, but going forward, we might start getting from gravel or from cobblestone. You know, we could make a pulverizer and start pulverizing, you know, cobble into gravel and gravel into sand, or maybe even, yeah, cobble into gravel and gravel into sand. Oh yeah, of course, we do have 2,000 slag right here. I did forget about that, as well as, you know, some more slag on the back there. So we can use that as well if we want. But like I said, I think depending on how much refined steel we need, it's probably worth setting up that that automated system, right? And we can do the same thing we've done before, where we have it only work when we have like when we don't have enough slag. So we can set up a system that uses cobble and sand to make slag, and then stops using it once we have like, you know, 1,000 slag or 500 slag. And then, you know, as soon as we request more refined steel, that slag is used and the system kind of kicks into gear and starts making more as well. But for now, guys, I think that's basically it for that setup. Next time we'll come back, we'll look at maybe upgrading the void ore miner if we can get enough of the next tier of crystals. We'll also look at progressing on. I'm not quite sure why we need a recycler and a matter fabricator, but I'm sure that will come into focus when I look at how some of this stuff works. I've not played with advanced rocketry. I'm gonna have to kind of figure out, you know, how all of these things come together and how they work. We'll look at maybe getting into this nuclear fusion quest here, and then potentially into, you know, the quantum quarry and then into the advanced rocketry stuff. But yeah, I think for now, guys, that's basically it.